Good evening, everyone. I just got home from work, so I really just wanted to have a quick check-in, touch base with you on, a couple of different things that I've dealt with along the way with my MST journey. And this really has to do with my overall emotional state. Obviously going through a rape when you're drunk is humiliating, right? And you blame yourself, and I know this. Blame yourself over and over again, along with feeling shame that if you tell someone or open up about your experience, that they are going to look at you as a less than. And I feel like that's part of the issue when you're an MST veteran, where it's almost like a badge of honor, and you're going to get tax breaks and extra privileges if you're a combat veteran. But, if something happened to you and you were victimized, you don't get those same benefits. And a lot of times your benefits get taken away. It's almost like you get punished on top of dealing with a consequence. So, in my own journey, it's been painful. It's been hard. It's been very difficult to navigate surviving along with dealing with my emotions and opening up about myself. And when I was running for public office, it was difficult because I wanted to let people know that yes, during my time in the military, I did get raped, but there were a lot of people who were against it. And I actually had put it in my biography on my website. Like, I was just authentic about my story. I didn't go through details of, everything that exactly happened, but I summarized it. And there were people who were not supportive of that decision, telling me that I shouldn't do that. But at the same time, when I was in politics, they were doing, the opposition and the people working with the opposition were doing a lot of things to try to shame me because of my experience. So I have a lot of experience dealing with shame, humiliation, and, how that feels. And I just had to get to a point that I worked through where I realized that I don't have to be ashamed of my storyline. I don't have to let that define me, and I don't have to feel less than because I'm an MST veteran. That, coming to that point within me was a point that I reached that I was like, you know what? I'm whole. Despite what has happened to me, I'm growing despite what has happened to me, and I've overcome a lot of adversity despite what had happened. So when I think about it, I feel like a lot of times we get punished versus honored for what we go through. And this is really why I want this group to be a place where we can just respect each other, come from that place of empathy and love, and support each other as we're all going through our journeys. But what I know to be true to everyone that's going to be in this group, that's participating in this group, is in some way, shape, or form, you're dealing with shame, humiliation, and you're carrying, even blame, you're carrying that with you. And I've done that for so many years that it was difficult to start shedding those negative emotions and coming from a place of authentic vulnerability, right? We all make mistakes. We're human. There's not one of us who's lived a perfect life. So it's part of our learning process. And I think a lot of the things that do happen to us are worse than what the situation should be. That's also part of life. But it doesn't have to be something that we blame ourselves, because that's another form of punishment on top of the punishment we already faced, on top of the consequences we've already faced. And, going through what it is to feel humiliated and ashamed and carrying those negative emotions with you, that's been something that I've struggled with in my MST experience, where I wouldn't open up to people about it because I felt like they would judge me. And it was a difficult process for me to come from a place where I'm not defined by that experience. It's a very huge part of what I've gone through. It's a very huge part of how my personality has been molded along the way and how I've grown, absolutely, hands down. But I don't sit there and feel ashamed. I don't sit there and feel humiliated. I don't sit there and blame myself for those situations. What I have learned through this is to love myself, to get to a point that I am with myself day in and day out. And that's part of my story, is the fact that I am an MST veteran. It's coming to accept that. And being able to say, you know what, I'm not going to let those things define me, but I'm going to come from a place of being, honest and authentic, knowing it's a part of my story, and loving every part of myself of what I've been through. And the fact that I have learned and I've gotten to a point in my life that I can help others, add value to others by opening up. So as difficult and challenging as it is for me to do that, at the same time, it's also, a continual momentum for me to shed that, because a lot of times people will say you shouldn't share your story, it makes the military look bad, you shouldn't open up about the experiences. No, we absolutely should open up. We absolutely should have those conversations. We should start a hard and difficult conversation, because when you think of the different industries, whether it's Hollywood or the military, it happens, and it happens to more than one person. And every time we don't talk about it, we let the next generation go through it, right? I bet this happened to me already 11 years ago, and I still hear stories from 2011, 2015, 2016. So it's still going on today. So it's like, until we're really ready to have our conversations and come from a place of power, that we know our truth and we know this to be wrong, and to really stand up for ourselves and say, you know what, we don't have to hate ourselves for these experiences, but we can love ourselves, and we cannot like certain aspects of how life functions. I think that's really where our true place of power comes from. And I feel like that's where you're really connecting to God and saying like, hey, there's a point that I'm ready to open up. And I think everyone arrives at a different point, because at a different time. Because if you're dealing with shame and humiliation and you're carrying those on your back, you're not going to be someone who's going to be open and willing to engage on that level, because you're not there. And I understand what that's like to feel in the public light. I know what that's to feel like. I know what it is to feel that when you're being judged by everyone around you, when your name's coming out in the newspaper, on social media, on mailers. Like, I get it. Like, I understand what it feels like to just be on that journey by yourself, to say, I don't ever want that experience. I didn't want that experience either, believe me. There's a couple of life experiences that I could have done without, that I'm like, God, come on. Did I really need to go through that to learn? Did I really have to go through that? But when I look back in hindsight, I change my emotion to gratitude. And I come from a place of like, I'm thankful that I had that experience, because I have a very interesting story and I have a lot to offer to others because of those things. So at the same time, I'm like, you know what? I went through those things so that I could help someone else, and I could open up about my experience. It's not easy. It's not, for me to sit here and tell you that like, I'm Miss Strong and I'm Miss Confident. The reality is like, I'm a confident woman because God has gotten me through everything that I've been through. I am a courageous and brave woman because I know that I'm aligned to God's purpose. That is why I feel that way. But when it comes to sharing my largest vulnerabilities and the things that have hurt me the most, I don't feel strong. I feel that I need to do this, to help others. And I feel like that's why we're all here, is not to help ourselves, but to learn about ourselves so we can help others and be empathetic. And like I said, going through everything I've been through, that's the woman that I want to be. That's the woman that I want to evolve into. So part of where my soul's journey is, like, this is where I am in my present. And part of that is barring it all, telling people that I've dealt with shame and humiliation. I've dealt with that. I've carried that burden. I've let that go. And that's no longer a part of my life. Thank God, right? Thank God every day for that. And I thank God for the lessons I've learned, God or the universe, however you look at it. But I am at a different point in my life that I'm still dealing with my issues. Like, I have issues with anger and resentment for things that have happened to me. And that's where I'm at, and I'm dealing with those things. I'm learning how to forgive, and I'm implementing that in my life. Again, that's not easy either. But I remember that I'm connected to a larger purpose, and that I'm going to keep growing. Like, that's all we can do. And, each one of us is on our own journey to grow. That's why we're here. So we strengthen each other by coming together and not tearing each other down. So that is why it's really important to me that we have the values and standards that we do in our community, just so we can all become women of value. And I truly mean women of value, right? Like you and me, we have that within us, and we can manifest that on our day-to-day life and show that to others. And we can walk around with the values that we have, and we can hold those values true to our heart. But it comes to a point that we have to learn what these values mean to us and how we're going to live our lives based on them. And that's really what I'm doing by, opening up about my own story and, being a part of this group and creating this content is, me fulfilling purpose and what I value. And I want to help someone else. Like, that's important to me because I don't feel like I had that. I don't feel like I had a mentor. I don't feel like I knew anybody else that had an MST experience until these Marine Corps groups started coming up and everyone would talk about them and argue about them. And that was when I was like, ooh, okay, a lot of other people have this experience, but a lot of people get attacked for having these experiences. So it was a mixed feeling when I did realize that there was a community of MST veterans, and I still didn't say anything and still kind of went on my own life. But it came to a point that, we're stronger together. We're stronger together, and that's the direction I want to see us. I want to grow together, and that's important to me. So again, thank you for joining our group, MST Veterans, and I really hope that you find this content valuable, and I hope that it helps you, and I hope it makes a difference. Good night.